Um, okay, so welcome everybody. We are really happy to present, I think, the youngest member of the network, the family, uh, the Mumbai People's Un-versity. It's been an experiment that started out as a series of conversations between first Manish and me, and then all of us and Manish. For this call, we want to share what we've done, what we have learned, what our vision is, and what is it to really anchor a university or a people's university in an urban city, I mean, a city like Mumbai, where with its buzz, with its busyness, and so on. Also, what is it to set up a people's university as a part of a larger network? Because Blue Ribbon is already an ecosystem with multiple programs, and what does that lead us to? Those are kind of the aspects that we'll be covering. We've designed it with a presentation, which I hope we're able to load. And Hemang will lead along with Kechal, and we'll all kind of be chipping in. That's how we decided we'll be doing this. So our standard format, part one, we'll just be sharing what has happened for about 8-10 minutes, and then part two about what our learnings are, and then part three we'll open up for questions, discussions, and so on. Does that format work for all of us? Is that format okay? If you can just type on chat or just let me know if you're fine with this. Hemang, yeah, okay, good. One yes is okay, sure. Okay, great. So I'm going to pass on the baton to Hemang to take us through this and kind of start. And let's take it up from. So Hemang, over to you. Hemang and Kejal both are in transit, and that's how actually things happen in the city. So you will hear some horns and so on as well. So over to you.
Hi Abhishek, thank you. So just to quickly introduce the Mumbai's people Un-versity, as we call it. We started off, this I think was inspired by, at least my participation was inspired by a meeting that I had attended with Manish, where the discussion was there is an urgent need to explore alternatives in education, correct? And I was pretty encouraged and inspired by that meeting. So, and Abhishek was already on to this experiment with a lot of other people including Manish. So I decided to join in. It was a very, very interesting experiment for me personally, because I represent also the parallel education format. So I coach people for entrance exams. So here was my chance to step into a very, very different world. In fact, the polar opposite of the world I currently inhabit also. So the intent was basically three principles: get people to self-learn, get people to self-design their courses. Obviously, it has to be self-paced also. So these were the 3 points we started off with: self-learned, self-paced, and self-initiated. Uh, and the first circle that we had done, which was about, let's say, 3 months ago, was a circle exploring education itself. So it was a group of 6. All of us were and we met once in about 15 days to discuss the alternatives in education. So as a part of that, at one of the meetings that we had, everybody had researched one alternative system of education. So for example, somebody had researched Montessori, somebody had researched Nai Talim, etc., where we shared our learnings. We also dialed into a few people who were actually living the philosophy. At the other meetings, we discussed our let's say experiences of education and so on and so forth. So that was the idea format. So find
I think the voice is breaking.
the rest 10% would be are we supposed to read, etc. So that was the first circle, which I think went reasonably well. We had a lessons from that, and then we decided to go into the second phase, where we actually opened up the circle to some other people also. So we had something called as the Fools Forum, which was a network of a lot of people exploring communities and
So,
alternatives in Bombay.
Hemang, just
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
check
yeah,
in. Do you want to load the presentation? Should I load it?
correct.
Will
Sorry.
we will we go without the
At
presentation?
least it's available on my screen. No,
It's
it's already loaded on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
loaded.
already loaded. Yeah,
Click
yeah,
with us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's with us. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. So that was the first circle. Then we had what we call as the opening pitch or the exploration of the idea of the Mumbai University on the Fools Forum. So you could see a few pictures on your screen right now. So this was a gathering of about 80 odd people, people who had come to celebrate what we call as a Fool's Day, people who dare to be different, etc. And we had set up a few circles. So you see some circles already on your screen. So people are discussing religion, people are discussing survival skills, people are discussing different art forms that they would like to pursue. So typically these were in a way presented as if you had to pursue these as your courses, which one would you like to join in? So people had actually selected the courses that they would like to join in, and hence sat at different circles. So this was a very, very interesting 40-minute discussion where people actually lay down, okay, this is the topic I would like to learn. These are the core subtopics that we would like to learn. This is how we would like to learn, etc. So this formed, I would say, the base of the launch of the project that we went on to. So that was the Fools Forum,
So I'll just
and
add
based
a
on the
few.
response,
Yeah, once you're
yes,
done,
yes, yes,
I'll
please,
add a
Abhishek.
few things once you're
Yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please keep adding, yeah, Abhishek.
I think also for the Fools Forum, what we did was to
Yeah,
invite the whole alternatives community in Mumbai. And what really helped us was that people spread the word and the stone soup addas and the possibilities of the city. These are networks in the city, and they really amplified the message. So the people who showed up were a combination of Blue Ribbons programs, but also people who were engaged in various alternatives in the city already. So it was and we did this at a public space. So the idea was also that we start reclaiming public space. It was on 1st April, so it tied in with the April Fools. We said, oh, if anybody who dreams of a different world is a fool, so let the fools come together. So that was a pitch which we called. And Kejal, I'm going to request you also to keep adding as and when.
correct, correct. Correct. Okay. So this is what happened on the 1st of April. Then we had asked people to obviously put down their names, where they would like to continue these courses, and where we also met with our first challenge, which was coordinating logistics. So Mumbai is a pretty spread out city. To travel from one end to the city to the other can easily take 3 hours if you're traveling by road, unfortunately. So out of the 4 or 5 courses, we had to actually sense what courses people will actually join given their logistical challenge. And we also had a call with Manish where we shared our first set of learnings with him. So what we decided as, instead of letting people decide the time, the venue and the place, which was taking up all the energies of the group, we set a fixed agenda that we are going to meet every alternate Sundays for sure. The timing was also fixed that it is going to be at 10 o'clock, and the venue was also fixed, which was Dadar, which is actually a connecting hub where everybody can come to Dadar. So once we realized that once these logistical challenges are taken away, you don't get people to decide for themselves because it's a nightmare for them. Suddenly our plan started moving very smoothly. So that was how we decided, and we launched our first course, which was called Exploring Alternative Lifestyle. So the brief of the course, once again, which was with a lot of inputs from the people joining the course, was how to, if they have to live a lifestyle which is not mainstream. So what would they like to learn? So they decided, okay, we want to decide alternative ways of financing. We want to learn alternative way of energy, alternate way of living on the farm, so on and so forth. So the first meeting focused on getting everyone to share up their personal stories, which was a very interesting point. So we had people who were students but very frustrated with what they are studying and they wanted to do something very else. people who were in corporate jobs but were also looking at, that does not satisfy their soul, so they wanted to do something else. So people actually opened up with all their personal stories. For some of them, it was actually the first time ever where they were sharing these deeply intimate stories, which was a very very touching part, because it was shared with people who are there meeting almost for the first time. So at the checkout round, people were actually very appreciative of the space that they have now to share their intimate desires, which is what people really really loved doing. And we also had an anchor for the course, Vinod, who is practicing alternate living for quite a long time now, who shared his story, his journey, etc. That was our first meeting. So that meeting I thought went pretty well. So if you look at the pictures again, so there are some pictures of the Fools Forum and the first meeting that we had of the PU. That was it. Uh, the After that we moved on to, and we also obviously branded this. Okay, so let me just go back to a little where we had to in a way plan a relaunch. So we started calling it Learning Sunday, because we had decided it has to be a Sunday, and the concepts of PU to be explained in a concise manner, the communications to be marketed, etc. So we went on with the branding of Learning Sunday. So that's what you see on the screen. This is actually the place where we met. It is under a bridge, so it's a public space again. There is traffic some around, but people are very enthusiastic. I think we had a crowd about 20 people coming in for our first meeting also. So this was a very interesting circle that we had. We had good coffee breaks, followed by lunch as a group lunch after that, etc. So a nice personal space for everybody to learn. Okay. So that was a meeting. After that, we continued the theme. People had again intended mentioned that the next thing that they would like to explore would be money in detail, because for most people, especially in Bombay, if you want to live alternate lifestyle, money becomes a bigger challenge. So that meeting was very very focused on alternative finance, which means gift economy, barter, etc. So where people again opened up with their personal stories. Okay. Again, you will see a few clips of the same. The third Sunday, so we have done 3 rounds as of now. The third Sunday was very different. So where we initiated one more course, rather one session of the course, which was called Let's Get Arty. So going back to the Fools Forum, people had expressed desire to learn a lot of art forms. So here where we focused on let's get the painter out within you. So people were actually again at the same public space. People had their drawing instruments out, and people are actually painting to their heart's content. We had two painters. We can also call them professional painters, artists, etc., who have done some good work, who had come to actually anchor the session. So they were actually nudging people up, helping them, and lots of fun and frolic around. So you'll see a lot of pictures with people of displaying their the artifacts that they had done on that day. We have done uh,
Himang, we lost you for a bit. Will you repeat your last few
Sundays, as we
sentences?
call them, under
Himang,
Mumbai's
Himang,
Un-versity.
Himang,
So
you'll have
those are
to
a little more, few more pictures that are coming up here, etc.
Himang, you'll have to repeat the last.
Kejal, if you want to add your personal experience of how this go, the 3 Sundays that we are talking about.
Himang, do you
Kejal,
want
Abhishek,
to?
whoever wants to add their personal
Hello,
experiences.
hello, hello, hello. Himang, do you want to repeat the last few sentences? I think we lost you.
Hello.
Yeah. Kejal, do you want to add Himang last few sentences?
Um, I'm waiting if Hemang wants to add the last.
Hello.
I think Hemang has lost the connectivity. I think from my whole experience of being part of this, organizing this, and probably also being part of this learning journey, simultaneously we realized that uh, location and time is always an issue, which is why we had to pre-decide it. And to start a self-learning course for people who are yet not familiar with the idea of self-learning, it's very difficult, which is why we need to break down it into smaller steps and start with a co-initiated, a co-learning journey, and then to the self-learning journey, which is why we transitioned into the whole idea of learning Sundays from the whole Fools Forum, where we wanted people to start taking up courses, because started we only one of the course got started actualizing and went into a self-learning mode, which is the facilitation fellowship. And that also was mainly because the participants were from Blue Ribbon's other youth programs, and they were already keen on that idea and wanted to pursue it. Which all so from there we realized that to start other courses, we first need to get people to understand the concept. We have to be in a more co-facilitated space, and then step by step move forward. Um, I'll just go into details of the facilitation fellowship, which turned out to be the only course which is running in a very self-direction manner. So what you can see in the slide are two pictures from the initial discussion of the starting this course. So there are around 6 to 8 participants on an average who are part of this fellowship. And on the very first day when they were discussing, the discussion went up to for 3 hours, where each of them was trying to put forward their point and their way of learning, and then went into different conversations, moved from when do we do to where do we do, because each of them sees a different location, different time, and what do we learn, because the topic itself is so vast. So hearing from the participants, I would say it was a tough decision to make agreements on some points, that okay, we would stick to this as a group and we would study in this pattern, or these are the group norms. What do we do if somebody is not coming? How do we make sure if somebody misses? How many times do we how many times do we are we allowed to skip sessions, or who is going to invite the speakers, who's going to make sure that everybody's documenting what they're doing? So a lot of such questions came up, a lot of discussions, arguments happened, and then finally, after one entire 3 hours of discussion, they finalized certain things, and those then penned down on this chart paper, and which acted as a guideline for them to take forward their course. And we realized even in this course there was a need of a course anchor who would make sure that things are going on, and distributed roles. So for one session, one participant would organize a speaker. For the other session, one participant would take responsibility of the reflection session. Another person would take care of the energizers. So the roles was distributed so that each of them could take part and do one bit every session, and they keep learning in the whole process. The curriculum was decided in the beginning, that what will be the topic of each session, and to make it a co-learning space also, and to see how others facilitate. They were part of the learning Sundays also, which happened. So they would attend that. They would see how other facilitators were uh, doing facilitating spaces, holding circles, so that they learn, and they also observe others while learning. So that was the way they decided by themselves. On and all, I would say this the course is going quite well, maybe because all of them already know each other and have a certain understanding of this process, which is why what we're trying to do till 1st of July is to get people involved in the whole idea of co-learning, and also understand different topics of co-learning courses which we started on the Fools Forum, so that once people are sensitized about the topics and things they are interested on, from the next cycle when we start in July, we could probably start the whole idea of starting a course the way facilitation fellowship happened this cycle. So that's how we intend to do, which is why we've distributed it in single one-off events, so that people can then take it forward. Hemang, Abhishek, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I could add.
I think that's a yeah.
And I'm also, Ravi, going to take the liberty of starting the video because also the recording will have the variation that we need. I hope. So it'd be nice for you to listen. So I'll start and turn it off. No, I just wanted to add that I think I saw the process of them planning the course, the facilitation fellowship. And I think the process itself is very educational because it makes a person realize that there are so many decisions that are taken for them. It's almost like sitting as a university dean or registrar because you're starting from scratch and mapping the immensity of the knowledge, mapping the choice of method. It's a mind-boggling set of options, and I think if we had to do it again, we would reduce the number of options and let learners kind of maybe explore, or maybe give them much more time to design the course itself. Because that itself, I think, was quite a process. So that was one thing I wanted to share. That the process of designing is valuable in itself. Back to you, Hema.
Hemang?
I think if we are talking about the challenges right now, I think the description that Kejal gave was up to the mark for sure. Challenges, if I have to look at it, obviously from the first one which she has put up, I think this is a very Mumbai special challenge, which is the lack of time and how much to travel. So typically, if somebody is actually very calculative, he will say, I have to travel 4 hours for a meeting that lasts for only 2 hours, etc. And also just coordinating the time limit. So here I think what Abhishek just said, limiting the decisions that he has to make. So once we have made it as a fixed schedule of every alternate Sunday, I think that challenges get course. If so, there is so much to cover in, let's say, an alternative lifestyle course. So if I do it once every 15 days, it would go on for months and months, and then the energy tends to lag. There is a drop in attendance, etc. So that thing of where people are really committing their time to the act of learning is something that we are yet to see, and I think it will take some time also. So maybe we started off with an initial philosophy of self-learning, self-paced, etc. But currently we are more into the idea of core designing, core learning, and I think the challenge is to manage that transition. So right now we set uh, the schedule, we set the speaker, etc., which slowly has to move on to let people decide what they want to do, at what time they want to do, and how much they want to do. So that is one very interesting challenge and an opportunity that we are currently facing. Get people commit their time and energy to the process of learning, because there are an unlimited possibilities of usage of time, and this is one of the many things they are doing right now. So we have to just manage that.
I think just quickly to add to what Hemang said,
Second, which yeah, correct.
Was sorry, Hemang, was just that this is also a leadership action
Yeah,
actually, which is where if somebody initiates, it's almost being vulnerable to creating a plan that nobody may respond to. And I think one of the reasons people don't do it is because they're not used to making these kind of invitations and trusting that people will show up. I think so the learning is not only about co-initiating, but it's almost like it feels like a leadership act. And I think now slowly some people in the facilitation fellowship are starting to take that up. But that itself is the learning journey.
correct, correct. So actually, if I look at the first meeting, mentally we're prepared for attendance from anything from 3, because Abhishek, I, and Kejal were anyways there. So we are mentally prepared for anything from attendance of 3 to 15, and I guess actually 15-20 people actually turned up. So we are mentally prepared for that swing in attendance, etc.
Hmm.
But people are doing it for the first time. There is, I think, that's a slight fear of failure, where if I initiate a session and if people do not turn up, it is people are not still used to that concept. So I agree with Abhishek. It is a leadership experience for all of them, which slowly and surely we will be able to let people decide. Because our vision is of learnings happening at many places simultaneously. So one could be happening in Borivali, one could be happening at Vile Parle. So, but yes, that's a journey that we have to navigate yet. We have not yet started on that journey, but we still have to do that. Correct. That's how it is currently. Correct. Uh, One challenge is also what if we look at all our initiatives, especially what Durbin does across all their projects. So it's a feeling of community for one, and learning the second. So personally, again, we find it very difficult to figure out, are people coming there to meet co-fellows, are people coming there to meet their friends, or are people actually there for the course? Obviously both in tandem work well, but we are still to figure out, are people coming to meet their community, to hang out, and does education happen as a byproduct of the same, or are people coming in for the course that we have designed, for the learning experience that we have designed for the same? So community or education or both is a question that we are still grappling with. We have still no answers, because once, like if you look at the last Sunday, we had discussed art. Now the number of people attending more or less remained the same. So it's not that people complained, oh, alternate lifestyle nahi padha rahe ho, or nahi explore kar rahe ho rather, and you are doing art. So we are still in the process. Obviously, the feeling of community is what we also want for sure. But the priority between the two is where we are really figuring out, because if you have to understand the model well for it to scale up later, if you have to do it at multiple places, so we have to in a way crack the exact reasons why people are coming for such programs, etc. That's how it is. Gift economy that you mentioned there.
Yeah, it's on the slide. Emma. Go ahead. Gift economy, branding, communication.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes. So the point here is, right now we are obviously not charging people for any of these sessions, etc. And we are exploring, because our idea is obviously to make this financially sustainable on the long term. We do not want to rely on external corporate funding, obviously, for the same. So we are currently exploring a gift economy model, where it, I would say, still is a challenge for people to accept the concept of gift economy. So typically at the end of a session, if we would say, okay, you can contribute what you think it is worth, or sometimes we have to mention, that this was the total cost that we have incurred, and do you want to split your costs? So people are still not very used to the concept of a gift economy model, because maybe this is the only space they see where we are using gift economy. So that is still a challenge, even practically, about how much money is collected, which is a smaller detail, and more importantly at the spirit level, where we really want people to move on to a gift economy model as well, so because learning how to value it, etc., are the questions that we are still figuring out, etc. Because to make this project sustainable for the long term, it will have to have some source where it at least generates the money to pay for this cost. And obviously none of us are actually charging anything for this particular project, but in the long term we need to make it a sustainable project on its own, etc. uh, so any comments on that, Abhishek, Kejal, or on the gift
Yeah.
economy model, Abhishek specifically? Yeah.
I mean, we're hoping that at some stage the people's contributions plus maybe a couple of donors are able to support one full-time resource person who then coordinates the entire city's activities, and everything else is voluntary. In an ideal situation, in fact, the gift economy contributions from the program itself should sustain one fully paid person or partly. That would be our sort of, so to speak, steady state. And beyond that, everything else is volunteer hour. But it's still a long while to get people used to gift economy. Particularly, a lot of people are students. Just the idea and the culture of contributing, whatever they contribute, even if it's a little, so I think that is the part that we are really grappling with. Last time for getting RT, we asked people to get their materials. So that was okay. The middle class, most of them are middle class, so it's not such a big challenge of bringing art supplies. But it's where the contribution across the BRM ecosystem. In fact, this is where we are trying to build this culture of small contributions.
That's correct.
Kichel, do you want to share about the branding interfacing with other BRM programs?
Yeah, I can share. So mainly what happens is people who come for the for Learning Sundays or for Fools Forum or even the Facilitation Fellowship are people who are coming who either know of BRM or have been part of the program as alumni. So when we are taking this forward, and when we are also initiating simultaneously running those programs and also running this, they start merging and start sort of crossing boundaries. And also most of our programs are also based on leadership and learning, and trying to do alternative way of learning and building leadership skills and doing action. So the idea of it starts being similar at most of the programs in different spaces. So we also have these confusions at times of which all programs should we, should be under the whole banner of Mumbai People's University, and which should be not, because most of them also are on very similar lines. So that happens. And also audience people's attention from one program to other programs, it becomes a complexity for many people to understand at times. अच्छा एक साइड पे यूथ फेलोशिप कर रहे हैं, सिविक इश्यूज सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, एक साइड पे सेल्फ लर्निंग कर रहे हैं. So those interfacing of different programs and different verticals together in the ecosystem at times becomes complex also for people to understand. And how do we brand it? Do we call it Blue Ribbons, or do we call it Mumbai People's University's this course, or Blue Ribbons course? Or so those are the different dynamics of the issue around branding and different programs interfacing.
Thanks, Tejal. Yeah, I think one final challenge is this whole framing the idea of self-learning itself. In a culture where everybody is used to the standards, somebody will decide my course and so on. I think just even getting people geared up for self-learning, the culture of self-learning, and just the whole idea of what it takes, I think that itself is going to take us some time. It's not that people are easily going to take on to that. And so how do we communicate that idea? How do we frame it? And especially this whole vision, which I think from here Hemang can take us into, to communicate that and take people through that journey itself is an interesting challenge. So maybe Hemang, you can talk about the framing of the idea and vision, and then we can pause. I know we've been going on for a very long time, but we'll take questions maybe after that, if that is okay. So Hemang, do you want to share the communicating framing challenge, and then maybe a little bit on the vision, and then we can open up?
He has so many brands. So he hears Blue Ribbon, he hears People's University, then he hears Learning Sundays. He might be doing some other course called CCF. So he sees so many names in front of him that sometimes the challenge that I don't know where I'm standing right now. What am I doing right now? So somewhere we have deciding, it's not yet decided. So we might just take inputs in the Q&A after this also. Is if we can come up with a simpler branding funda, So a name that we loved was if we can call it the Learning Mafia, and then let go of every other branding. So everything under the university is called the Learning Mafia. So that is one of the ideas we are playing up. And also so when students come up, so the communication challenge is, so if we tell them, okay, this is a Un-versity, so they're still not used to the concept of challenging the norm. So questions are typically, okay, will I get a certificate? Are there attendance rules? Is there an exam at the end of it, etc.? So that that we have to convey that message in a simplistic manner. Maybe think of it as a Facebook post or an event poster that you see somewhere. And so the entire concept of PU, which has a lot of deep underlying philosophy behind it, to make it simplistic for everybody to digest and participate. So some people are still not okay with, okay, why should I challenge the norm of education? I'm still a student at a university. Why should I do this? Is the fear that they have, if I can use that word, fear. So the challenge is interesting, how to make it a Facebook event, for example, which people would like to attend, and for the course that they want to really learn. So maybe the college is not offering that, but we are the ones offering that. So it's a typical challenge of getting understanding who will come to our course and who rather should be coming to our course, and how do we make sure that they understand the philosophy of it. We don't want people to come here for the heck of the course and with some ulterior motives. So that's the challenge we are currently facing. So we have to simplify our branding for sure, and simplify our message, because sometimes the message might get too difficult for a student who is, let's say, only in the first year of his studies to understand fully. So simplification is, I would say, the challenge that we are currently facing when we talk about the branding and communication challenges.
Sure, Himam. Do you want to go into the vision and Himam, do you want to go with the vision also?
Sure. So our vision is pretty straightforward. So typically, if you look at our vision, a visual, it's a Sunday morning. There are 7 different courses running across 5 different places in the city. Somebody is doing art, somebody is doing alternate lifestyle, somebody is talking about religion, and I have an option of choosing. Oh, so this is what interests me. This is where I want to be, and all of these have to be in a way self-initiated and paced by the group. So groups of learners across multiple locations doing things that they really want to do on their own is the place that we really want to learn, reach rather. And also we want to make it a long term thing, so it's not that okay, a course kiya then we are off for 6 weeks, etc. We want a person to be in a way enrolled into the process. So he is in a way like, just people join a college and stay there for let's say 5 years. We want people to be enrolled onto our platform of self learning, and spend some time there, learn multiple things, providing better value for his time and efforts, and at the end of it he becomes a proud student of the university. So yeah, that's it. Multi location, multiple courses, and we are just the platform, we are the enablers, so we should be helping them with the course design, how to do it, with some basic logistical issues sorted out for them. Maybe have that self design kit, where people, once they go through the kit and with some help from our side, they should be able to start their own courses, get their friends to join in, get their families to join in. So typically small communities across a lot of places, learning is a vision that should make all of us very, very happy. Maybe it's in a few years time from now.
Great. Yeah, that's, I think, well summarized, Himam. Kejal, do you want to add something on the vision side of it?
Yeah, I think as Hemang already mentioned, I think one thing which I personally really want to really feel passionate about is if the courses start getting self-initialized, and because currently they are co-initiated and they're co-designed, because so if we want to try to see that if people can start initiating the courses, and somebody from the course itself make sure that the course happens rather than any of us uh, going behind them and figuring out if it is happening, if it is not happening. So yeah, that's one thing I think.
Uh, yeah, I think, and I'm going to take from a slide and just take the liberty of sharing how it fits into the BRM family, where there are various parts, and the intent is that they all kind of build on each other. So there's a People's University, there's a media lab, there are the Community Connect Fellowship. So it's action, expression, dialogue, uh, right? So that's kind of the broad idea uh, in how it fits into the BRM system. So great. I think we can take up questions now. And yeah, this call need not even last all the way till 10. Actually, Ravi was asking. So maybe another 20 minutes of Q&A, 10, 20 minutes of Q&A. So let's open up for questions. So do we have any questions at all? From anyone? Questions, reflections, comments.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I was wondering how the initiative is dealing with the rapid changes in the field of technology and how that affects alternative education, sustainability, sustainable lifestyles, and so on and so forth. For example, artificial intelligence and robotics is coming at a very rapid rate, and that would shift how we look at all of these spaces. Any thoughts on how this would be integrated into your initiative?
Sure. I think each of us will have different aspects to mention. I think one thing that we intended to do was surely to keep a personal connection. We had a conversation and went back and forth with Manish also on this. And one of the ideas was not to foreground technology at first, but to foreground human connect first. And perhaps as technology evolves and as we co-opt it, like in terms of webinars or in terms of doing an app, but that only to come in later once a community starts getting built. So for now, we've in fact foregrounded or tried to focus on the person-to-person connect. That's what I'd say. But yeah, Himang Kejal, that's a very interesting question. Himang
Uh,
Kejal.
yeah, I think also one of our discussions was once the group reaches a certain critical mass. Right now maybe we are too small and hence it is easily manageable. Maybe we'll have to start using technology also. So if we are, let's say, meeting once in 15 days, which is actually a huge gap, maybe a online conference call like the one we are doing right now. So we are trying to use tech, but yes, like Abhishek correctly mentioned, the person to person connect it will be at the foreground. And second, I think one of the parts of the vision also would be to have some courses online. So why restrict this to only a few people? So maybe we can also have online courses. uh, as far as the other things that you mentioned, AI, robotics, etc., I don't think we have as of now factored that in our plans, to be very very honest. Because our broad definition of the course is something that will help you make a better world, you know. So if you look at it, all our courses currently are designed in that format. So if there's somebody coming in with saying, okay, I want to, let's say, learn AI because I want to be an expert on AI and get a job with at AI, maybe as of today that definition of our courses at PU may not allow that course to happen, because the definition is courses for a better world, etc. So but yes, so I think in summary, tech may be an enabler in some time soon, but as of now it's being used in a very very small format.
Great.
It,
Any other questions?
So I have one question.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah. So just thank you for sharing. I mean, it all seems very interesting to me. And while you were sharing about the fast pace and the fast pace and of life which is there in Mumbai, and I'm sure as every other city, there's also rush, and there's also over exposure to information, and there are a lot of things to learn and see and experience. So like is there something on the offerings that is also challenging that notion of having a fast pace, or trying to learn anything, because maybe these things are also on the offer at different places, but what is it that is making a university unique and challenging the thought of other institutions or universities?
I think that's, I would take that as a very interesting suggestion for maybe one of our courses that we offer. You know, so the benefits of a slow life. You know, so there's obviously a culture around the world of slow food, slow life. But I think that's a very interesting option that you have suggested for us. Uh, at least till this time of the call, we had no such plan. But I think this could be one of the courses that we should offer. because challenge the entire notion of busyness and the fast pace of life. Uh, I love that suggestion. Thank you so much for that suggestion. Yes. Uh, Abhishek, your take on the same?
Yeah, I mean, nothing in particular. I don't think I fully grasped actually the question itself.
Correct.
So I'll pass.
Correct.
I think
Yes.
I'll just add to the second part of the question, which I think was why is this a unique option for people in Mumbai when they have multiple other options also, if that was the question. Um, I think
Yeah, yeah,
most, was that the question?
yeah. I mean, it was also that what is it that is not making it the same institution like other institutions?
Okay,
So
right,
what is
right,
it? Yeah.
right. So I think one is Mumbai as a city, and you, as you already understand, the way education is happening here is a very privatized, a very competitive thing. Something which most people are doing for getting a degree, getting a job, and making a career. And in this whole run for the marks and get the best college thing, what happens is most of us lose the whole intent of why they are learning and what they want to learn actually for themselves. So then learning for self, learning happens for reasons like career or job or money or something of that sort. So idea of Mumbai People's University is to one, learn for yourself, learn what you want to learn, and not learning as much for a career or a job, which is why it's not a full-time course which people take up for say a complete 1 month or a complete year or something of that sort. It's something which they do along with whatever they're doing in life, because we understand that transition is difficult to make. You cannot immediately leave everything and start one-off things all of a sudden, which is why it's something they do along with what they're already doing. They also learn something which they're passionate about, which are not available in colleges or any institutes yet. So something like reimagining religion or an alternative lifestyle, these are not something which are very openly there as courses or even as topics people explore on a day-to-day basis unless they find very similar like-minded people. And hence I think when as Hemang also said, one of the reasons why some people come is becoming like getting that feeling of community, finding those like-minded people in the city of race, and everybody's trying to be the best and run and chase and everything. So I think that's what is making it unique till now, and which is why most of the people who've been coming are less in number, but are people who connect to that feeling of learning for themselves, learning something different, learning which is not really powered by any other motive, but just for themselves. I think that's what also makes it unique and interesting to take.
I think one
Thank
last
you.
thing I feel like adding, Rahul, is also throughout the Blue Ribbon ecosystem, we have whatever is the invisible BRM spirit, we can call it. I mean, it comes closest to the spirit of love, but there's a particular nature by which BRM has evolved its own ways of working. So you will see a certain pace, you will see a certain presence, you will see check-ins and check-outs and circles and a certain lightness, a certain approach. And I think throughout the BRM ecosystem, not only in the People's University, but in the Community Connect Fellowship, in the Media Labs, hopefully in Buck, there is this shared spirit. I think so. To me, what is unique is just as you walked into a store, Apple store, and you feel you are at an Apple store. Hopefully, we will be intensifying the BRM spirit to a level where you walk into a space and you say, "Wow, this feels like a very different space from the rest of the city." And that BRM spirit is what we're kind of also I would say is what makes it, what pulls people also. I think what pulls people again and again
Yeah.
is the spirit. They want to experience that spirit.
Thank you.
Great. Any others?
Madhur has put some question, I think.
Yeah, Madhur has put this question and he had a comment as well. Madhur, you're also free to read. I mean, likhne ke bajaye we can also hear your Madhur voice and hear the question. And acha, slow tech hai idhar, chalo, theek hai. So I'll read this one out. One of my challenge has been how to track my learnings and a peer group uh, to that be a sounding board or sounding recognizing board of that. I'm curious as to how this initiative provides or facilitates this. So, how is learning being tracked? How is learning being tracked? Imam, Kejal, anybody wants to take this one on first? How is learning being tracked?
Mm. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's no specific mechanism as such, but it's more on feedback basis. So as after every session, there's a reflection and there's a check-in or check-out. So that's when each of them gives feedback about how much they think they've learned, and also the co-learners in the space have been sharing what they feel about how the course is going and what they've learned and what the other challenges they are facing. So I think right now the tracking mechanism is more or less that nothing, not something very stringent, I would say.
Hemang here. I think currently the learning tracking is more in the experience itself. So let's say a person started a course on alternative lifestyle, and after 5 sessions, there is a certain change in his thinking, a certain change in the behavior. Maybe he took the first few baby steps towards the lifestyle that he wanted to live. So I think it's more in the shift in the mindset and the little actions that you take. Uh, as of now, and I don't think it's a plan for the future too, where we are going to have any testing done to check your learning. So it's more about how do you feel and act after the learning process, and how do you
Cool.
the learning
That's
that's
a great
happening.
question. Uh, yeah, I think this might just be a good time to pause, unless there's a specific question emerging. But there's also a smaller group amongst us, and a couple of us have also already left. And Mir Madhur and Rahul have also checked in the question. So, if that is okay with everybody, could we have an early close, or is there a conversation that you would also more questions pending? And I have a response in the chat box, and then sense accordingly. Okay, so that sounds pretty much like it. So thank you everybody for being here. And I think sharing was also a great opportunity for us to put together our thoughts. And thanks to all of us, I guess, for being here. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the at the retreat itself. Imam Kejal, feel free to close if you would like to.
Thank you, everyone. I think putting our thoughts onto that PPT help us, clarify our thoughts, make it more sharp, think about the insights. So it was a good learning experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the retreat. Our tickets are already confirmed, so we are all there.
Yes, great. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot. See you.
Good night.
Good night.